goodness it's chapter 6 already. We are halfway through our book. Chapter 6 is called Doing Good, which I hope a lot of you are doing right now. It was breakfast time, and Mother's letter telling them how they were all going to Christmas to their aunts and how Father and Mother would meet them there had been read by everyone, and it lay on the table. "We shan't be able to go anywhere on the carpet for a whole week, though," said Robert. "And I'm glad of it," said Jane unexpectedly. "Glad?" said Cyril. "Glad?" "Yes, glad," said Jane. "I don't want any more things to happen just now. I want everything to be just real, and no fancy things happening at all." "I don't like keeping secrets," said Anthea. "It makes me feel selfish and mean." "If we could only get Mother to believe it, we might take her to the jolliest places," said Cyril. "Well, we're going tomorrow anyhow," said Robert. "Don't let's waste the day. Let's get on the carpet and have a jolly good wish." "Yes," said Cyril. "Well, couldn't we wish the carpet to take us somewhere where we could have the chance to do a good and kind action?" said Anthea. "It would be an adventure." "We might rescue a traveller buried in the snow like St Bernard dogs with barrels round our necks," said Jane, beginning to be interested. "What I should like," interrupted Cyril, "would be getting into the middle of a war and getting hold of secret intelligence and taking it to the general, and we would win the war." When breakfast was cleared away, the children sat down on it, together with the phoenix, who'd been especially invited as a Christmas treat to come with them, and to witness the good and kind thing they were about to do. 4 children and 1 bird were ready, and the wish was wished. When their eyes were opened again, the children found themselves on the carpet, and the carpet was in their own room. "I say," said Cyril, "do you think it's worn out, the wishing bit of it, I mean?" Robert anxiously looked at the phoenix. "It's not that," said the phoenix, "but, well, what did you wish?" "Oh, I see what it means," said Robert. It means we can do kind and good actions where we are, I see. Well, I simply won't." Cyril spoke loudly and firmly. "We want to go somewhere really interesting, where we have the chance of doing something good and kind. Now then, carpet." The obedient carpet started instantly, and the 4 children and 1 bird fell in a heap together in the middle, and as they fell, they were plunged into perfect darkness. "Where are we? Oh, how shivery! Oh, it's wet! Oh, I've just put my hand in a puddle!" "Has anyone got any matches?" said Anthea. Robert drew out of his pocket a box of matches, struck a match, and lit a candle. 2 candles. "Well done, Bob," said his sister. "Well, I've always carried them about ever since the Tower Day," said Robert. "I knew we'd want them one day." "Bob," said Anthea suddenly, "do you know where we are? This is the underground passage, and look, there's the money and the money bags and everything." By this time their eyes had got used to the light of the candles and saw that Anthea spoke the truth. "It seems an odd place to do kind and good acts in," said Jane. "There's no one to do them to." Suddenly the voice of the golden phoenix spoke through the gloom. "Peace," it said. "You invited me to come out with you and see you do good and kind things." "Well, we can't do it here," said Robert sulkily. "No," answered the bird. Robert was silent. It was Cyril who suggested that perhaps they'd better take the money and go. "That wouldn't be a kind act, except to ourselves, and it wouldn't be good whatever way you look at it," said Anthea. "That money's not ours." "We might take it and spend it on the poor and the aged," said Cyril. "Well, that still wouldn't make it right to steal," said Anthea. "I don't know," said Cyril. "Stealing is taking things that belong to someone else, and there's no one else here." "Well, let's get out then," said Anthea. "We can argue as we go." So they rolled up the carpet and went. But when they had crept along to the place where the passage led to the tower, they found the way blocked by a great stone which they couldn't move. "Everything has 2 ends," softly said the phoenix. So they turned around and went back, and Robert was made to go first with one of the candles, and Cyril carried the carpet. The passage were long, and there were arches and steps and turnings and dark alcoves that the girls didn't like much passing. The passage ended in a flight of steps. Robert went up them. Suddenly he staggered heavily back onto the feet of Jane, and everyone screamed, "What is it, Robert?" "Oh, I've bashed my head in," said Robert, when he'd groaned for some time. "That's all. The stairs go right slap bang into the ceiling, and it's a stone ceiling." "Stairs aren't made to lead just to paving stones, as a rule," said the Phoenix. "Put your shoulder into it." Cyril had pushed past Robert to get to the top stair, and was already shoving his hardest against the stone above. Of course, it didn't give in the least. If it's a trap door," said Cyril, and he stopped shoving, and he began to feel about with his hands. There it is, a bolt. I can't move it. By happy chance, Cyril had in his pocket the oil can from his brother's bicycle. He oiled the bolt until the drops of rust and oil fell down on his face. Then he tried again, but still the bolt wouldn't move. So now he tied his handkerchief round the bolt, and then he tied Robert's handkerchief to his, and then they both pulled, and the girls put their arms around their brothers and pulled too, and suddenly the bolt gave way with a rusty scrunch, and they all rolled together to the bottom of the stairs, all but the Phoenix, which had taken it to its wings when the pulling began. Nobody was hurt much, because the rolled-up carpet broke their fall, and now, indeed, the shoulders of the boys were used to some purpose, for the stone allowed them to heave it up. They felt it give, and dust fell down on them. "Now then," cried Robert, "we'll all push together. 1, 2, 3! The stone was heaved up. It swung up on a creaking, unwilling hinge, and showed a growing oblong of dazzling daylight. It fell back with a bang against something that kept it upright. Every one climbed out, but there was not room for everyone to stand in the little paved house where they found themselves. So when the Phoenix had fluttered up from the darkness, they let the stone down, it closed like a trapdoor, and they spread out. You can have no idea how dusty and dirty the children were. The place they were in was in a little shrine built on the side of a road that went winding up through yellowy green fields to the tower. Below them were fields and orchards and little houses and gardens. The shrine was a kind of tiny chapel with no front wall, just a place for people to stop and rest and pray. So the Phoenix told them. There was an image that had once been brightly coloured, but the rain and snow had beaten in through the open front of the shrine, and the poor image was dull and weather-stained. Under it was written, in French, because they were in France, if you remember, Saint Jean de Luz, which means St. John. It was a sad little place, very neglected and lonely, and yet it was nice, Anthea thought, that travellers should come to this little rest-house in the hurry and worry of their journeyings, and be quiet for a few minutes, and think about being good. The thought of St. Jean, who had probably been a very good and kind person, made Anthea want more than ever to do something good and kind herself. "Tell us," she said to the Phoenix, "what is the good and kind action the carpet brought us here to do?" "I think it would be kind to find the owners of the treasure and tell them all about it," said Cyril. "And give it to them all?" said Jane. "Well, yes, but whose is it?" "I should go to the first house and ask the name of the owner of the castle," said the Golden Bird, and really the idea seemed to be a good one. They dusted each other off as well as they could and went down the road. A little way on they found a tiny spring bubbling out of the hillside. Here the children washed their hands and faces and dried them on their handkerchiefs. The first house they came to was a little white house with green shutters and a slate roof. It stood in a little garden, and down each side of the neat path were large stone vases for flowers to grow in, but all the flowers were dead, because it was December. The children walked up to the front door. It was green and narrow. A chain with a handle hung beside it. Cyril pulled the bell, and its noisy clang was dying away before the terrible thought came to them all, "We don't know any French." At this moment the door opened. A tall, very lean lady with pale ringlets stood in front of them. She had a grey dress and a black apron. Her eyes were small and grey, and the rims were red as though she had been crying. She addressed the party in something that sounded like a foreign language and ended with something that they were sure was a question, but of course no one could answer it. "What does she say? Robert asked, looking down into his jacket where the phoenix was hiding. But before the phoenix could answer, the lady's face was lit up by the most charming smile. "You are from England!" she cried. "I love England. Enter, enter all!" She pointed to the mat. "We only wanted to ask—" "I shall say what you wish for," asked the lady, "but enter only." So they all went in, wiping their feet on a very clean mat, and putting the carpet in a safe corner of the porch. This warm welcome embarrassed everyone, but most of all the boys. There was a wood fire, very small and very bright, and portraits of ladies and gentlemen hung in oval frames on the walls. There were silver candlesticks on the mantelpiece. There were chairs and a table. At the end of the polished table a little boy sat. He wore black velvet, and the kind of collar all frills and lacy that Robert would rather have died than wear. But then the little French boy was much, much younger than him. "Oh, how pretty!" said everyone, but no one meant the little French boy. What everyone admired was a little Christmas tree, very green and standing in a very red little flower pot, and hung round with very bright little things made of tinsel and coloured paper. There were tiny candles on the tree, but they weren't lit yet. The children sat down in a row on the stiff chairs against the wall, and the lady drew the curtains and lit the little candles, and when they were all alight, the little French boy suddenly shouted, "Bravo, ma tante!" and the children shouted, "Hooray!" Then there was a struggle with Robert, and out fluttered the phoenix, spread his gold wings, and flew to the very top of the Christmas tree and perched there. "Oh, catch it!" cried the lady. "It will burn itself, your beautiful parakeet." "It won't," said Robert, "thank you." But the lady was so anxious that the phoenix fluttered down and walked up and down on the shiny walnut wood table. "Does it talk?" asked the lady. And the phoenix replied in excellent French. It said, "Perfectly, madame." "Oh, the pretty parakeet," said the lady. "Can it say other things?" And the phoenix replied, this time in English, "Why are you so sad, so near to Christmas time?" The children looked at it with a gasp of horror and surprise, for they knew that it was not good manners to ask strangers the reasons for their tears, and of course the lady began to cry again, very much indeed. Anthea hugged the lady, so presently the lady stopped crying and called Anthea an angel. "I'm sorry we came when you were so sad," said Anthea, "but we really only wanted to ask you whose that castle is on the hill." "Oh, my little angel," said the poor lady, "today and for hundreds of years the castle is ours, our family's. Tomorrow I must sell it to some strangers." "How would you feel if you found a lot of money, hundreds and thousands of gold pieces?" asked Cyril. The lady smiled sadly. "Ah, someone's already told you the legend," she said. "It is true that one of our ancestors hid a treasure of gold, but all that, my children, is but a fairy story." "Tell her what you have found," whispered the phoenix to Robert. So Robert told her, while Anthea and Jane hugged the lady for fear that she might faint for joy. "It's no use explaining how we got there," said Robert, when he had finished finding the story of the treasure, "but we can show you where the gold is and help you fetch it anyway." The lady looked doubtfully at Robert. "No, he's not making it up," said Anthea. "It's true, and we are so glad for you." "Is it not a dream?" she asked. "It really is true," said Cyril. "If I do not dream," she said, "you should all come with me to the priest." When the lady had put on a stiff black cape and a wonderful black silk bonnet, the whole party went down the road to a little white house where an old priest with a good face welcomed them with a politeness so great it hid his astonishment. The lady told the story in French, and now the priest, who knew no English, spoke also in French. "He thinks," whispered the phoenix, "that her troubles have turned her brain. What a pity you don't know any French." The priest was disappointed in the story, but he put on a big hat and got a candle and matches and a spade, and they all went up the hill to the wayside shrine of Saint Jean. "Now," said Robert, "I will go first and show you where it is." So they prized the stone up with a corner of the spade, and Robert did go first, and they all followed and found the golden treasure exactly as they'd left it. And everyone was filled with the joy of performing such a wonderfully kind action. Then the lady and the priest clasped hands and wept for joy, and knelt down and touched the money, and talked very fast and both together, and the lady embraced all the children 3 times each and called them little angels. Then she and the priest talked and talked and talked faster than you would ever have believed possible. "Let's get away now," said the phoenix softly, breaking in on the dream. So the children crept away, and the lady and the priest were so tearfully happy that they never noticed the angels had gone. The angels, or our children, ran down the hill to the lady's little house, where they left the carpet on the veranda. They spread it out and said, "Home," and no one saw them disappear. "Oh, that's much the best thing we've ever done," said Anthea, when they talked it over at tea time. "In the future we'll only do kind things with the carpet." said the phoenix. "What do you mean?" said Anthea. And you'll have to wait and see for chapter 7. Bye.